All right, I want to talk about grip because not enough people have done that yet. So I really don't do anything any more different than what everybody else does. So video over, I guess. Just kidding. So really, I want to touch on some of the nuances and minutia that I see on the Instagram instructor videos and the YouTube instructor videos that number one doesn't make sense to me, and number two I think is just completely dead wrong. So and then maybe I'll get into some of the stuff that particularly that I do and how I would teach it and kind of clear some of it up as we go along. But I want to hit a few high points and then maybe some of these we can do more long form videos on, but I don't want to make this one too long. Um, the first thing is whenever you start going into a lot of minutia, like you see the lectures, like hour-long lecture, half-hour-long lecture on what to do with your grip and what to do with your thumbs and your pinkies and the middle finger and the ring finger and skeletal structure and muscular structure and canting the wrist and making sure that your hand-eye coordination and kinesiology and all this stuff is you're losing people. And I don't know if they really realize how much they're actually losing. Is that like, this is the perfect analogy. If you work a corporate job and somebody starts coming in and giving you all of the corporate lingo, and it's like, okay, I know those words and you also know those words. And so I know that you're just using words that aren't in everybody's lexicon so that you seem smart. And the clients or the other people that are in our department that you're talking to, they don't know what you're saying. And so either you're going to have to explain it to them like they're five, or explain it to me like I'm five, or I don't understand what you're saying and I'm not going to ask because I would be embarrassed to not be as smart as you. And now we have a complete misunderstanding of what I'm supposed to be doing. So when you get into like using all of the big science words and stuff, when it literally is as simple as gripping a handgun, you're losing people right off the bat. Not only the master level people who do know what you're talking about, but people who are semi-competent with firearms, shoot every once in a while. Your average police officer, if you're doing a class for officers, they probably don't really necessarily want to be there. Not very many of them actually care about guns and shooting like super high level. And they're just doing it because they have to. And or you're talking to like the average Joe who just wants to shoot a little bit better. And none of those people, number one, care what you're saying or how sciencey it sounds, and you're probably losing them either because it's boring or it's not getting their attention and they're not even, you've been here an hour and haven't shot a single round. Or they don't know what you're talking about and that you've lost them totally. They're off in the weeds somewhere. So when I talk about it with people is as high and tight as you can possibly get on the frame, and then there's a void here, and then you put your palm there and you squeeze really hard. And that works across the board with like 99% of people. That's a thing that works and people get it. And you don't have to make it any more complicated than that. You're just holding on to this thing while it cycles back and forth. That's it. That was like a 30-second version of what the hour-long, latest instructor operator video was on grip. So and like 99% of people understand that a lot better than all the other like instructors I've seen go that talk about grip pressures and like 60-40 and stuff. Because the truth is, you tell somebody 60-40 and 60% of your grip comes from your support hand and 40% from your firing hand. And it's like, so nobody has ever quantified their grip pressures ever in the history of mankind. Like nobody has been like, this is what 60 is, and I know exactly how that feels every time. It's never going to be consistent. Nobody knows what you're talking about. And if you ask somebody, give me 60% with your support hand, and then you go to the other hand and say, give me 40, and then you go back to 60, it's going to be a different 60. That's just the way, and it's never going to be consistent. But if you tell people, present the gun and squeeze as hard as you can, and it'll shake a little bit, and then you just back it off until it stops shaking. And that will get 95, 96, 99% of people to understand across the board, this is kind of what I need to do. And over time, they just realize, okay, this is the amount of pressure I need to give so that I'm holding on to it the most that I possibly can, and it's the dot's not doing funny stuff in the window. So the other thing is like minutia with like what to do with your fingers and how much with each finger. I've seen videos where they're like, give this much with your middle finger and this much with your ring finger, this much with your pinky. And it's like, we're 30 minutes into a lecture that should have been a minute. It should have been an email, like this meeting should have been an email, and we haven't covered anything of substance, and everybody is lost and half the room wants to go get a cigarette and only one person smokes. So the minutia thing, like especially for red dot, is people will say, well, with a Glock, you give a little bit of pinky pressure, pull with your pinkies, and then your dot will come in. And they tell the class that, and then you're giving people a problem to solve that maybe only a quarter of them is actually going to have. Because there might be some people who have a problem presenting the dot to their eye. Only a certain percentage of those people are presenting it high, and a certain percentage of those people are presenting it low. So if you tell them, hey, you present it and you don't find the dot, you need to pull with your pinky. Well, some people that's going to fix, and some people it's going to make it even worse. And so you've given them a solution to a problem that they either don't have or they're not having the exact way that you want them to. So what I think you should probably actually do is just like wait and say, here's, grip it like this. And then as we go around the line, if you have a problem, hey, I can't see my dot. Okay, well, which way are we correcting it? Hey, you might try this thing that seems to help people that are presenting it high. Or you might try this other thing for people that are presenting it low. Whatever it is. The truth, though, with that, and we'll get into that on like a little bit longer form video on dots and quote unquote how to find the dot, which isn't really even a good way to think about it, is just figure out where it is and you have to practice, right? So the one thing that I do is minutia for me, specifically for me, is my grip. I have kind of long fingers. I don't know how the camera picks that up, but I'll almost, around the Glock, there's like maybe less than an inch of space between my middle finger, my ring finger, and my palm here whenever I grip. If I just put my hand here and I go to squeeze, it wants to push my fingers up and then they rub on this sandpaper grip. And even other guns, like I've shot staccatos, I've shot SIGs, I've shot whatever it is, it wants to push them up. Even on stock Glock texturing, it's just uncomfortable. And so the thing that I've found that fixes it for me is if I just take my middle finger and I back it off like a quarter inch. And honestly, the little bone part sort of pad on the top of my middle finger sits almost on the corner. And you can even see like I've pushed this grip around so much there's a little ridge here. So now I kind of have like a little bit of an index point for where I need to put there's that word, index point, where I want to put my middle finger. And then I can put the rest of my grip here and I can squeeze, and I don't have this problem of like trying to rub my middle finger into my sandpaper grip. So that's the minutia that I've found that works for me. Would I ever teach that to anybody? Absolutely not. I would never say, grip the gun, and then you just back off here and give that to everybody as like a solution for a problem that I've never heard of anybody having. And I don't think that maybe I'll post this video and I'll get a comment of a guy like, I have the same problem and I'm going to try that and it fixed it for me. But I don't care if I ever hear about this problem ever again. It has worked for me so far. And I do it with Glocks, I do it with the 45, I do it with 17s, I do it with 19s, and I do it with the M&P that I have here in the belt. And across the board, that little trick works for me. So, with that said, again, I think we get a lot into like the minutia of, and here I am doing like a 10-minute video on like how to grip a gun, and realistically, you're teaching people number one, things that might not even be right in the first place. Number two, things that are not issues for them, things that maybe they can't even quantify. And number three, you're giving them solutions to problems that don't even exist for them, like not even in their head. And you go on for forever and use all the science words where you've already lost half the room because the science words, and the other half of the room is like, I'm tired of sitting here for 30 minutes. I came here to shoot a class. Can we please just shoot a class? And that's pretty much that. I want to cover like some of these points a little bit more in depth as I go along on the channel. I'm probably going to film a few different videos today, so if you see a bunch of videos on a same shirt, same hat, that's why. But this is kind of like a new, if you've made it this far, sort of a new format of video that I'm going to try out, of just like talking to the camera about like gripes that I have about things that people are teaching. So and we'll even get into like some law enforcement stuff, because as much as people like love to hate on law enforcement, it like, you guys have to learn how to shoot too, and nobody does a very good job at teaching you guys how to shoot, and none of you care. So anyway, that's pretty much it. This is kind of, I guess, like we're on the like the photo set, the Aperture Defense photo booth kind of deal. So you can expect more videos like this coming soon, but we'll see you. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or hit me on Instagram, same name, Aperture Defense. And I kind of, the tagline on my YouTube is like, bringing training back to the real world, and this is kind of, I guess, part one of that. Let's just make it simple for everybody and bring it back to the real world, where we're not using like the big science words and trying to make it make everything operator, or make everything combat, or make everything like preparedness, recce, whatever. Just because like nobody can shoot very good. So anyway, that's it for like the third time. See ya.